What's up everybody and welcome back to yet another YouTube video. I know a lot of you guys look at me and say, wow, how could anyone dislike this guy? I don't know. It's insane. Why? Why me? But yeah, I've actually been bullied before. But there are definitely people out there who've gotten bullied a lot worse than me. You see though, my bullies were weird. Like I sit back today and I just wonder, what was going on? Before I get into these bullies, look, I'm sorry, it works though, it works. Over half of you guys, once again, are actually not subscribed. Look, I'll keep it simple. If you like my content, you should subscribe. It helps me, keep going and gives me that drive to keep going. But hey, if you don't want to, that's fine. Thanks, and on with the video. All right, let's talk about my first bully. Angus Beefcake. So yeah, first off, his name was Angus, like the steak, like an Angus steak. Now apparently beefcake is used to describe like a, muscly, attractive man, but also like a jock type of person, which is exactly what Angus was. He was the popular guy who was way too into sports, which, speaking of, is actually how I met him. I met Angus back in middle school PE class, and he was like a teacher aide type thing for like the PE teacher, which basically just meant he got 2 PE classes. That's how into sports he was. My childhood friend Ian and I were best buds in that class. We definitely always had each other's backs, and we both took a pretty strong disliking to Angus Beefcake here. I'd say it even made us better friends. But Angus also disliked us. Ian and I were surprisingly athletic, and I don't really think he liked that. We didn't look like it, but we held our own in that class, and so did our little posse. Pretty much everyone in our group for that class, like the friend-ish group for that class, was in band. And yeah, I'll be honest, we all did look like band kids, to be honest. When it came to us versus the jocks, we were gonna hold our own and, force them to try. Ian and I probably made Angus look dumb a few times, and I don't think he liked that at all. He was supposed to be perfect. One, he was a super athletic 8th grader going against a bunch of 7th graders, let alone not just 7th graders, but the band kids. Angus, for the rest of the semester, would play extra aggressive with us. It was to the point where he was like clearly targeting us aggressively. It was like, bro, you are a foot taller than me and a year older than me. So what made Angus weird? This is awkward. Angus had a stepsister in the class. Yeah. And you see, this stepsister was the kind that looked 18, but was really like 13. Side note, I went to elementary school with this girl, and in 2nd grade, she would get on all fours and bark like a dog. Very weird. But what was really weird is during attendance, which took a while because we had like 60 kids between the 2 classes, they would like flirt. No joke, like the laughing and the looks, it was really weird. And I'm not positive, but I believe they had only been step siblings for like a year, maybe, at that time. I also ended up being on the same recreational basketball team as Angus, and you know what? Not surprisingly, he bullied me there too. I actually pushed him once and said stop, and he moved like maybe an inch and laughed at me. But he was like constantly being a jerk to me, constantly pushing me and all that, just like a bunch of cheap shots. Did not like that guy. At the end of the day, what I think I learned from the Angus experience was that good homies definitely have your back, and Ian definitely did, so shout outs to the homie. Also, never trust a step sibling. Ever. Alright. So let's move on to high school. I know what you're thinking, you're like, what? Alec got bullied again? Let me preemptively say 2 things. 1, this bully was an absolute jerk to me, like really, really bad, and yes, he made me cry. 2, he was really, really weird. What happened to me was bad, but I feared one thing a lot more. Big Ron is what we're gonna call him. He was like the junior in high school who had a full-on beard and was like 6'4", like man-child. At the time, I was a sophomore in high school and had just gone through probably one of the hardest summers of my life. and was really at a point where I felt pretty alone. For me, doing like stereotypical manly things is kind of like, I don't know, I guess a fear of mine. And I basically took this shop class, Metals, to shatter that fear. As a bit of foreshadowing, at the start of this class, one of the biggest things emphasized was don't make weapons. Remember that. My teacher seemed to like me towards the end and took a hating to Ron from the very beginning. Why? Why hate Ron? Well, Ron was a total disruption to class and was really, really disrespectful. But why did I hate Ron? Well, Ron scared me. A while back in my video about perms, I talked about my friend Aaron. Love Aaron, great guy. He choked Aaron out in class once. Big Ron also enjoyed doing some rather scandalous things. One day I walked into the shop and there was Big Ron dry humping someone, and really multiple people just literally just going ham behind people. It was really weird. It was like for humor, but like you were like, is it though? I am scarred by that memory. Somehow this guy had a girlfriend. How? Why Big Ron? Big Ron was not a good-looking guy. He was big and I guess muscly, but not a good-looking guy. Quite the opposite, in my opinion. And she wasn't like some like ugly girl. No, she was a popular girl. Like, what was going on? Ron to me had a lot of issues. You could probably understand why. I was wondering why he was even still allowed in school. Why hadn't anyone said anything? Maybe it's because everyone feared him. Not so much the getting choked out part, I'm sure that might have played a part, but the getting dry humped part, I think would be pretty terrifying. That was terrifying to me. I don't want that. No thanks. But you had no choice in that matter. You just had to hope that you weren't an appealing meal to the beast that was Ron. I had somehow made it to the last day of class without becoming victim to Ron. But, how poetic is life? All of these days, I made it so far. I was proud of myself for making it this far, not only in the class, but, not becoming victim to Ron. My teacher had put on Iron Man, and I was just chilling out, waiting for that bell to ring. But then in a horrific move, Ron ends up behind me. Yes, the beast. In a quick turn of events, I am suddenly in a chokehold. As a final project, I made this. A masterpiece of sorts. A defense mechanism would be the appropriate name. Now, this was not a great situation, but I did have the defense mechanism in hand, and I could very easily punch this back and hurt him very badly. I was very prepared to do so, actually. Why was I in a chokehold? Big Ron wanted my masterpiece. He said, give it to me. Yeah, he tightened his chokehold and said, give it to me. I was losing air, but I said no. I, as a matter of fact, had the power in this situation. To him, maybe not, but I did. Though making the move of stabbing him in the face was just not smart. And thus I spared him, giving him this and releasing myself from the chokehold. And honestly, that hurt. He totally violated my personal bubble. He made me really angry for a really long time, but what makes us different is I'm a regular person. He ended up like stabbing one of his friends in the back quite lightly, but as you can imagine, it hurt. I ended up getting it back. He gave it back to me, or someone took it from him and gave it back to me. I think it was probably the latter. And yeah, I walked home from lunch that day and cried. I guess it probably sounds really obvious, but don't bully people. Just be kind. You have no clue what somebody is going through. And honestly, that put me over the edge. I was going through a lot at that time. And, I was incredibly lonely and self-conscious about my acne at the time. I think in the end, it makes a really funny story. But at the time, I hated it, and it was just terrifying, really. Make sure to tell your loved ones you love them, guys, and On that note, I'm gonna go kick ass at the game of life. Goodbye, guys.